All right, ready?
Start the show. I'll let you
All right.
lead us off.
Everybody, I'm Terry, one of the organizers, and Hunter, the other organizer. This is a Laravel Austin meetup, and just a quick couple of things. If you want to go to another meetup that's more general PHP, that date from 2, right? No,
Thursday, yeah.
Thursday. No, that's right. That's right. 3 plus 7 is 10. So next Thursday is the PHP Austin meetup. Talking about traits and a preview of a Zen-Con talk. More generalized PHP stuff. And let's see, anything else? There's not a whole lot going on. The next Laravel meetup is October 1st here. The next PHP meetup will be the Thursday after that. And then upcoming conference, PHP World, which is in DC, in November. And that's about it.
Nice. Well, so we have a couple of things to talk about. First thing I want to touch on is Laracon was about 2 weeks ago, give or take. Mm-hmm. And myself, Ransom, and Eric wound up going. And if Ransom and Eric would like to join me up here, they can just kind of chill where they're at. I kind of wanted to just go over a few things that we learned through some of the various talks. So my computer will wake up. Oh, cool. PHP Storm quitted. Off to a good start.
Apparently you're on your own.
Yeah. I mean, you can just chill there and chime in if you want to. But the Laravel was actually a lot of fun and more informative than I originally thought it was going to be. I have my skepticism about conferences that are pretty niche, as I call it, but it actually had a lot of talks that weren't Laravel specific. One's from Paul Jones. We had the Code Rabbi, who was the closing keynote for the entire conference.
Hunter gets it.
Yes, Hunter. I do get it, as Code Rabbi, I would say. As well as talks about microservices, tackling mental illnesses in in the engineering world and at work, being aware of them, how to approach your employer, because not everyone, though actually I think this has changed with various laws signed into effect, but not all health insurance actually covers various mental health things like therapist visits and all that. I think that's changed now. I'm not as knowledgeable on that topic as I should be. So it was a lot of fun. One of the main talks that I quite enjoyed was by Samantha Geets. She did a talk on microservices, and it was actually very cool because we at Perkman, we have our few monolithic services, and we've debated and talked about sooner or later microservicing and just going to more service-oriented architecture sometime in the future when we have time, which is always the hard part. But she actually highlighted some of the pluses and minuses that came about with that. I'm wondering if I can bring up some notes I had. Excuse me. I actually missed a talk that Eric and Ransom caught because I wound up running into her during the break and talking about microservices and how they handle the authentication and things like that between the microserviced out APIs. Where are you? Oh. How in the hell do you use this web interface? Yeah. Paul Jones went over a few interesting talks as well. His talk, same thing, happens every time. Kind of focused on the different orientations of programmers there are. The future oriented, doing it right the first time, refactor as needed. They're more more academic developers, the detailed super into patterns, abstracts, versus the present-oriented, which is just get it done and then make it faster, more like rapid, simple, things like that, as well as touching on the problem child that you might have on your teams, the ones that are really smart, know what they're doing, and talented, but they don't have a lot of like empathy when it comes to the job, and they remember all the things they got right and conveniently forget all the things that they got wrong, and will game the rules to be more in their favor than actually following them. So he talked about addressing the problem child and how the best way to do that is just give them their own project, let them run it, go, just kind of let them do their thing, and most of the times you'll be great. Project will be fine, works great, but every once in a while it can become a double-edged sword, because if something messes up how the problem child is, like if they don't really think they've ever failed, that might kind of blow up in your face when they do finally fail and they can't really like rationalize a way that it wasn't their fault, or they're going to go way out of the way to figure out a way that it wasn't their fault. So he touched on that. He and Jeffrey Way actually had a very interesting discussion / debate right in the middle of his Q&A.
Yeah, he called Jeffrey right out.
By that he explicitly was like, "Hey, Jeffrey," and basically said that he'll realize later that what he's saying now is wrong, or something like that. He didn't really say it the best way possible, because Jeffrey's talk right before his, things Laravel made me believe, was talking about how simple always wins, like what's unimportant is paramount, just paying attention to the small details, and how you could make your like package or whatever have a very like pure API, but if doing so makes the API a pain to use, unless people absolutely need it, they're not going to use it as often. But if you have a very simple API, then people are going to pick it up immediately. It may not be the purest thing when it comes to different programming concepts, but it'll be easy to use, which directly ties to Laravel, because I mean every day somebody's harping on Laravel for not doing something right, but Laravel is so simple to use, which is why it's probably one of the bigger, if not way up there in the top 3 in my opinion, like PHP frameworks, is that you can just jump right in immediately. Whether or not the code's like amazing is besides the point, because if you get something built and shipped on it, then great. You made it further than most people do.
What's the other two?
I would probably say Zend is up there, and probably due to legacy, maybe CodeIgniter. Like Cake PHP is just not something that I know of a lot of people using. I guess if you count WordPress or Drupal, maybe, but I'm thinking more like frameworks and not CMSs or forums.
Symfony.
Oh yeah, Symfony, there we go. Yeah, I'd get rid of CodeIgniter because I wasn't even thinking about Symfony. So Symfony's in Laravel, and Laravel's built on top of Symfony, so. But it was a very, very informative meetup, and it was cool to meet people that talked on Twitter all the time, like Matt Stauffer and all of them. But the keynote from day one, given by Taylor himself, is where he introduced the main thing to show off today, and that is Laravel Spark. If you haven't heard of it, it's basically a new tool that's going to come out, I believe, later this month that makes building a software as a service like stupid simple. It's more, as he said, community flow, more powerful than individual flow. Should be hitting its first beta soon, actually, and it ties in with Stripe for being able to do subscription-based payments right out of the box, as well as Authy. So if you want to give extra security to your users' accounts, you just plug in your Authy API key and can do 2-factor authentication right then and there. But I was talking to Taylor at Laracon, asking when it'd be launched, because I wanted to show it off at a meetup now instead of showing it off at next meetup when it's already been out and there's been like 300 Laracast videos and all that, and I'm just rehashing what Jeffrey probably said in the video. And thankfully, Taylor gave me access today actually to Laravel Spark, so I can actually show you live using Spark. So when you first set up Laravel Spark, which is just as simple as if you've used the Laravel installer, you just run Laravel new blog, Laravel new whatever. It'll install Laravel into that directory. If you just move into that directory in the command line and run spark install, it immediately downloads and sets up the entire Laravel framework to be used with Spark. And you get, as soon as you launch it, just do artisan serve on the command line, go to the URL settings, and you'll see this page here. Completely built in Bootstrap, which I'm sure was very obvious with all the nice pretty colors and typical bootstrappy things, but authentication's built in, team support, super customizable, just as customizable as any Laravel application. Subscriptions, two-factor like I talked about. It immediately sets up these nice little panels to outline the plans that you specify. Specifying those plans is just as simple as going into app providers, Spark service provider. Let me bump the font up real quick.
Found out that PHP Storm has a presentation mode.
I do remember that. Let's do 20. Boom. So, right here in this service provider for Spark, there's just this function, customize subscription plans. And it's just as simple as Spark plan, your price or free. You call features and pass in an array of different strings, and that's what populates these here. Run on the page, same thing with the price. Signing up is super simple. Just get started, takes you right back here to your plans. Since we specified in the Spark service provider that this plan has trial days and how many trials there are, it shows as much for the small business and enterprise plans I specified. I'm just kind of pretending this is a CI program. Yes, Rand.
You know, if entering that data in there using Stripe API to create the plans in Stripe, or do you still have to go in there?
You have to make the plans yourself, which I've already made, and just my Stripe panel, which I apparently had not used since last year, so I had a lot of updating to do. But you can specify the ID and the trial period in Stripe so that it actually follows the billing stuff. The plan specifications here in the service writer are more for just the data object representation that the views and all that use. It'd be nice if the plans auto-populated their data off of Stripe, but I'm not sure what kind of overhead that'd be. Technically, since it's using Laravel Cashier and the Stripe SDKs there, totally something you could do yourself. But we're just gonna choose the open source real quick. I have teams enabled already, so I can just choose by team name. It's gonna be a team. Email, password, accept the terms of service. Terms of service is actually clickable right then and there. And as it's saying right here on the page, right in the root directory of the project, there's a terms.markdown file that you just type your terms of service in markdown format, and it just will automatically populate the terms of service for you, so you don't have to screw with having a terms of service blade file or anything. Just boom. We all know markdown, super simple.
I guarantee you we'll see dozens of SaaS applications with this exact text in there.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of service.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's how the vulnerability scanners will find it.
Yep.
Just look for this page, Laravel Spark.
But I accept the terms of service, obviously, because I made this, and you're immediately dropped into your application's dashboard. And this example application, I just got access today, so I didn't have time to actually build a working software as a service application. As awesome as I wish I was, not that good, not the amount of time I had. But you have just basic settings panels. These are all these settings tabs here are populated from the Spark service provider right here. So you have Spark settings tab, configure, and you just return an array of these tabs: profile, teams, security, subscription, and these are PHP classes themselves. I think I can bring it up here. So you have these tabs. You see dashboard tabs here, and these functions they're calling profile, teams, security, subscription, all just return these tab classes with profile, what looks like a view or config, probably a view path, and then the font awesome icon being used to render here. So you can just make new tabs like that, pass it in for configure, and you're good to go.
So is that code you're looking at, has that been published into your actual app namespace, or are you like in the vendor directory?
No, this is in the actual app namespace. When you do Spark install, it drops the tabs. All these tabs I'm looking at right now are in vendor. Okay. Guess presentation mode doesn't update the view quickly. The Spark service provider is in your app namespace. Those tab classes were not.
Okay.
But as he has commented out here, you can either make your own class and bring it in, or you can make your own tab class, or you can just do tabs make and just pass in the name, the view path, and the icon you want showing up on the page, and it'll immediately go. Actually,
All the views, I'm guessing, are also inside of your actual app and not in the Spark whatever vendor directory.
exactly. So
Isn't there like a publish command that pulls them in?
For these, it's possible. I didn't run vendor publish. It might just drag them all in there. I know he's still working on stuff, so I'm not sure if that piece is there or not. But I'm just going to copy, for example, the profile view, and I don't know why I'm doing that. Let me just do this. Give it the same view. Here, reload, and look at my tab is right over here. And it just shows the profile page as well, because that's the view we specified. If we made our own custom view real quick, it would show that view's contents instead. So very easy to add tabs to your settings or your team settings. But you can change your name, email, just basic setting stuff. If you have teams enabled, you can I don't know why there's two teams. Get out of here. You see your teams, you can go to team settings, and that's when you can owner settings, which is just change the name at the moment. Membership, you can actually send an invite. So for example, I can send one to my work email address. Hit send, and in this instance, it's not actually sending. What it's doing is just running into mailtrap.io I set up. And here's the new invitation right in here. Underscore is inviting you to join their team, the invitation URL, and when you click this, nope, there we go. Immediately brings you in. We found your invitation to the A team, and then you just plug in your email, name, password, accept the term of service, hit register, and you're immediately part of the team that was configured. And you can change your plan here. I actually have some questions for him. Like, one thing I noticed is if I change the plan to, say, my $10 a month plan I defined, when I accept this invitation, it defaults me to the open source free plan, but I can also change to one of these and have to put in credit card information. So I'm not sure if it's just something I'm missing or if it's just defaulting to the free plan for team members and they can do everything within the application. That I'm not sure. As I said, it's going to be a beta September, so I think a few things are still being worked out, and I had no documentation.
During the keynote, I watched the Lyric on the EU one. He said something to that effect that he thought that would what the default people would want would be for when you invite a team member that they're not also paying for it.
Yeah,
It's how Forge works too, so.
right, and that's what makes sense. I think just how I set up the plans is what's making it look weird, because I just kind of very quickly came up with something better than just feature 1, feature 2, feature 3 plans, and came up with that. But going on to team settings, back to my own settings for security, I can change my current password. I can also do 2-factor authentication via Authy, so no one call me. Enable this right then and there. Shows up on my phone. I can log out. Go to log in. Ask me for a 2-factor. And after I go through all my folders, plug in the token here. And I'm right back in. Super simple, all set up for you. I'm gonna turn that off because I'll get old. And then you can change your subscription. I'm gonna go to the small business plan. See if I can remember this card number. Accept, subscribe. 2016. Derp. Subscribe. Hit Stripe the API. Charges, or if you have a trial, it will push on the plan. You won't get charged until the trial is over. But you can update the credit card you have in file. If you come look at beautiful MySQL land, I don't know if I can blow this up. No, it doesn't look like it. But it automatically brings in the Stripe subscription identifier as well as the Stripe ID, last 4 of your social. If there's a subscription end date specified within Stripe, it'll bring that data in as well. All right there, good to go. Knows your phone number still. It'll tell you if you have the 2-factor options on or off. Looks like he's just storing JSON right then and there. What's also nice is, I can't remember where to go to get this. Your settings? Okay, so if you come back to subscription, you can plug in a bunch of extra VAT or extra billing information or whatever you want. So, Lokma, live coding, update that, and then if I go to download this invoice, bring it to PDF, and generate the invoice number, address that's specified in the Spark service writer up here, the product identifier that comes from Stripe, date, the amount, and whatever description you specify within Stripe, and that extra VAT or billing shows up right then and there on the PDF. Quick and easy to get to, download, awesome invoicing just right there available at your fingertips. But that is the basis of Spark. With this, if you have your idea, they're like, man, I could really make some money with this just if I build it, but I don't want to have to go through figuring out the Stripe API and then building the infrastructure to charge it, bill it, keep track of if I build somebody, teams, if you want to have a team option, you can just have all that stuff already good, done for you. Just build up your new Laravel project, Spark install in the project, and you can get started. But that's all I've got to show you for Spark right now. I can't wait to see what it grows to.
Is there a view for the PDF? You want to mess around with that?
I didn't dig around and look for it, but I'm sure we could together find where it is. I'm assuming. Whoop. Stupid presentation mode. I'm turning this thing off. So, I'm not sure if the PDF thing is pulling off of the Stripe API to get the invoices, because I believe Stripe does have an invoicing piece, or
No, I think he was using React.js.
so. Just Scripts, settings. Nav, no. Layouts, no. Come on, billing. Oh, I guess there's a. Okay, it looks like it has the invoice. I didn't actually see the code or how to set it up, but you can actually email, or it'll send out emails with attached invoice. Question is, where is that PDF power? PHP days false. Okay, that's a carbon thing apparently. Ah, there we go. It's part of cashier. So get download file name, bring in data. Okay, so it has a write. This render. View. Oh, so it is using. Ta-da. Okay, so it is using a blade file for the invoice.
Sweet. And you can just publish that, or is it published?
That one I took out of the vendor thing, but
And you said it was in cashier?
yeah. Okay, yeah. So if you do vendor publish, it'll move everything from cashier and Spark's views locations to the resources views vendors directory. So after doing that, I can just come here, and for the receipt, body background's white right now. Let's make it gray. Now we're about to see if this actually works how it's supposed to. Yeah, so it made it gray. It's not a pretty gray at all because I don't know color codes. I'm not a designer,
That
but
doesn't look good.
no, it doesn't look good at all. But all you have to do is run vendor publish, and then you can just mess with all the Spark and cashier views readily available to you. Cashier's only one is receipt, which is for the PDF. And then for Sparks, you have everything. The authentications, like the registration routes, the authentication blade, all your navs, the layouts that it's using, because all the layouts it's in the vendor are just pulling from Spark, and then like layouts.common.whatever. Once you publish them, you can just change all those at once, and Spark will still work. It will just use your fancy styling and bootstrapping or whatever instead of what comes with it. So
So is there a Laravel Austin Spark repo?
no, it's all still private, though I did make sure, just because I thought it was cool, I made sure I got a screenshot of when I got added to the Laravel organization. Look at me. Whee. Yeah, the Spark repository is where it's just bringing in from, and then the installer is just a very simple command line thing that he hasn't even updated in like a month, so I guess it's done. But all the installer does is there's a stubbed out composer.json and app.php, the same one that's in the config folder. All it does is copies that stub JSON, composer.json, and overwrites yours. And then I've never seen the pass-through PHP function until today, but through pass-through it just runs composer require Laravel/Spark, and then after that it copies the app.php stub, which just is the lazy man's adding the Spark service provider to your providers array. And then just after you do that, the artisan command Spark install becomes available, and it just runs that for you. And that'll run all the migrations that come with Spark that give you the tables for users teams, password resets, and then migrations installs itself, but imitations as well.
I already read that it's going to overwrite your composer.json. It's like, don't use this.
Yeah, so you don't want to use this.
Project.
You don't want to use Spark install on a new, existing project. It's for getting started, brand new. It's very much expected that you go Laravel new, whatever, CD, whatever, Spark install, or Spark new. If you want to use it in an existing project, then it's just as simple as composer require Laravel/Spark, and then the same thing with all Laravel packages. Just add the service provider yourself, and then the command will come available. And the Spark Artisan Spark install command, I believe, is just what brings in the migrations that Spark needs for the tables. Which, if you already have a users table, then the main thing it needs is just teams, user teams, and invitations. So it was very simple to get set up. The only thing I had difficulty figuring out was how to, because he didn't tell me, was get the team thing available and usable. And after, using my programmer brain to figure out the problem, it's just as simple as adding this can join teams trait. Whenever that trait's you can change the model you're using for the user. So instead of, if you have something else like my awesome user as your eloquent user model, you can change that. You can change the Spark to use that model instead. Same with team. It has a team eloquent model it's using itself underneath, but you can override that. All it's doing is checking if that model has this can join teams on it. If can join teams is there, your entire application has teams enabled. As soon as I remove this and come back into team settings, is gone immediately. So if you don't want to add teams to your application, more complex than you want it to be, or just don't need the feature, just don't use the trait, and you won't have to worry about it ever. Table will be there doing nothing, but just hit that delete button.
So how many of you guys think this is really exciting? Anybody?
Yeah.
I think it's exciting, but I have a couple of hesitations. And I think one of those is kind of how tight the UI seems to be to the configuration for everything, and meaning how hard is it going to be to change this kind of dashboard stuff? Just removing that trait, removing that whole section of all this. How much are you going to have to change the way Spark works to get a custom UI? I don't know, but it's pretty awesome. Already trying to think of different ways to use it.
Does it have any sort of ACL for the teams or anything?
The ACL for teams is not built into Spark, but this Laravel applications already has the feature. Actually, another thing I want to talk about is, I don't know if you saw on Monday this week, but Forge, which might be why your Envoy decided to reboot everything, is that Forge now has the ability to run PHP 7 servers if your stuff's already ready to go to run on it. But he also added a feature to Laravel's authorization through a access gate, and it allows you to define different access policies now. So in this very horrible example I just typed up here, which actually is very close to the one on the page, just not thing is the variable I'm passing in, but you can define this policy of awesome, pass it in a closure. The user object, the currently authenticated user, will be the first variable passed in, and then the thing you're checking against, say a post, will be the second. And if you only want the user that owns the post to be able to edit the post, you can check this policy, and if they don't pass, it will reject them out of being able to edit. The docs actually kind of explain it in more detail, and there's a lot of abilities tied into it, and you can kind of understand where I got the update post idea from. But if user's null, then Gate will just automatically do that null user check for you, so you don't have to. If no one's logged in, it's gonna fail the check immediately. If you don't want to use closures, you can use class-based abilities as well, and that's why there's this folder called policies, as well as an artisan make command, which just generates an empty PHP file of a constructor, and those classes support dependency injection and everything. So if you need extra dependencies to do the policy checking, then pass them into the constructor. So if a closure here, you specify your class name add method like you would for a route, like controller route. And when it goes to check, it will call that class's function, run the logic you specified, and either let them through or reject them. You can also intercept all the checks. You can do it before. So say you have like an admin panel and you have different users. Like say you have, in this example, there's a super admin user. You don't want to check every freaking policy because the super admin can just do whatever it wants. You can run gate before, check like if the user is super admin, you just immediately return true. And if before returns anything that's not null, it will use that result for all the gate checks. So in this example, if the user is a super admin, they pass all the policies, it lets them through. Otherwise, it returns null and it moves on to check the next policy in the list. And then facades, everyone loves them, allegedly, but it has different methods. So in this example, find in the post, gate denies, update post, you just immediately abort out the 403. User's not allowed to edit it. Same with users. You can specify the user you're checking gate for, and then call allows, denies, etc. You can pass in other arguments as well. There's example, gate define delete comment, you're passing in the user, the authenticated user, the post, and then the comment. So basically like the post the comment belongs to. That way you can check, probably just check like, does the, I don't know what you would check on that one. If I could BS something like, does the user own the post, or only they're allowed to delete comments off the post? If the comment belongs to the post, things like that you
And
can
if
check.
the post is less than.
Yeah, and less than a day old or something like that. You can do whatever the heck you wanted to for these. The user model, you can, through the authorizable trait, it opens up the can and cannot, which is very similar to allows and denies. So request user cannot update post, abort 403. So if you don't want to use the gate facade or inject the gate class somewhere, then you can just use the methods already on the user to check the same thing. You can even do it in blade templates, which I'm sure somebody's already seen this and complained on the subreddit. Actually, that already did happen. They called Otwell a clown and can't believe that he's the one that's influencing PHP. And he took that very well. I don't think I would be as happy, but at the very obvious example, just can update post in the post. It already knows the authorized, like the logged in user, so you can just very easily show or hide the edit post button right there on the page. And you can also combine it with the else directive apparently. So I don't know what you do in this instance, but I'm sure somebody could think of something. And it just keeps on going on. Form request, if you've used them, form requests haven't authorized. The only time I've used them is just to hard code them to true, because for APIs, I'm not really doing a lot in that method. But you could for this example, get the post ID in your authorized for form request and just automatically handle the check there instead of within your controller. Same places you're already doing your validation rules and everything. And then policies, like I touched on, all that post stuff was like a closure defined somewhere. If you don't want to do a closure, you can define a policy class, and the off-service writer has a policies array property on it. And as you see here, you're just saying, okay, if the post eloquent model shows up that's being checked, I'm going to use the post policy class, dependency inject into the like update method. What's nice about this is if you're doing something from a controller, a lot of times your like post controller is going to have an update method. If you don't specify the method to check on, it will automatically assume you're using the same method from the controller on the policy. So you can have a post policy with a like view, update, delete methods, the same ones you'd have in your controller, and it'll just use the policy rules on those to check and authorize. And then you just have the same logic here.
You have non-standard controller methods?
Yeah, it looks like It actually says here. Yeah, for example, you might define show, destroy, or add comment methods. Where does it say exactly? It said somewhere exactly where it
No, I
does.
think the fact that add comment was one of the examples.
Yeah, okay, so gate denies, you just pass it in the post, and it'll automatically, this update string here is the method it'll call on the policy. Same thing with the view, like user model play templates, and a policy helper, because, you know, Laravel and its helpers. But controllers have an authorized method, same thing, just pass in the policy name and the model. Here we go. Took a while to get to the page, but yeah, automatically determine. You can just do this authorize, throw in the post eloquent model, and it just goes, hey, you're calling me from the update function on the controller. So you probably want me to use the update function on the policy to check if I can actually do something to this post or not. Goes from there. So it should be able to support any crazy controller method names you have within your application, just right out of the box. And this is available today, or actually since Monday, this month, this week, in 5.1.11, I think is the version number. So it's pretty cool. It's an awesome feature, and this was actually co-written by Taylor and Adam Wathan. Yeah, he was actually at Laracon as well, and he gave a talk about refactorization and simplifying code, which the keynote, or I guess call it keynote video, whatever, is online and available from Laracon EU. If you have time, I'd highly recommend watching it. And just because I feel nice, he actually showed off his service that we started using at BERT. He's building this thing called Nitpick CI that you and your pull requests, you can focus on the actual like solution to the problem. And if you're, say you're adhering to PSR2, if you use something like Code Climate or another, like other tools, it will like fail to build if, say, you're not PSR2 compliant. What Nitpick does is actually comment directly on the line of the file saying what the PSR2 violations are, so that you like know, okay, so this line I need to go fix. You might be running like PHP Code Sniffer inside of PHP Storm or just manually running it, so this may not be a big issue, or in Sublime, but for us it's helpful because there's a lot of us, and some of us have automatic tools set up in our IDEs to format the code for us in PSR2. Some of us don't. We want to apply this or adhere to the same coding standards, so we actually, when we set up the service, I'm talking with him, manually triggered Nitpick CI on a bunch of our PRs, and we have GitHub and HipChat tied together. And we were having a conversation in the HipChat room. I hit send on the first like webhook request, and all of a sudden it just went, just filled our HipChat room with messages. Nitpick CI commented on, and that went on for. After like 25 PRs, that basically destroyed the room's conversation ability for that part of the day. But it's super nice and it's helpful because everyone loves their coding standards. And it's in beta now, so type if you want to use it, plug an email, click and get invited. There's a super secret way to get in right now, but that's his secret to share, not mine. So if you can figure it out, you can get it. But that's all I have for you. So, any questions, concerns, comments, praise? Thank you, guys.
That test credit card that you were using, how does that work?
So I had to go look this up. Stripe Docs has this testing page, and there's just a bunch of numbers they have for testing that apply to the different like card types. So the one I used was Visa, just because it was really easy to remember 42 repeating. But they also have different card numbers to emulate certain events. So for example, if you use this credit card number here, we have a default account settings. The charge will succeed unless a CVC is entered, in which case CVC check will fail and the charge will be declined. So they have a bunch of test cards, so you can actually test the various instances of cards failing to charge or incorrect data, etc., etc. For the one I used, I just had to plug in the card correctly and just CVC, not an actual real one, and then an expiration date that wasn't like 8 or 9 months ago. And
Is it, I guess you're pointing the application to the sandbox, the Stripe sandbox, right?
yeah,
How do you toggle that off when you like go to production?
There's actually a toggle.
right there.
Yeah.
There's literally a UI toggle.
It's just for the UI.
Yeah, you do it in Stripe.
Okay.
No, that's just for the UI for viewing your data. That doesn't have
Oh yeah, so this toggles for the data, but you also have to change an account settings. Oh, freaking
everyone that people have been like confusion at my work, they've been like, oh, I switched into test mode. It's like, no, you didn't. You
Yeah.
just changed what data you're looking at.
So these here, the ones I'm using for the Spark app are my test secret and publishable key. Whenever you're ready to go live, you just swap out with the live secret and publishable keys.
So
And-
it's the same endpoints,
Right,
right?
have your
Yeah.
keys now, bro.
Yeah, I just memorized that.
I don't care. I haven't even activated the account, so you can't actually do anything with it.
I'm gonna give you a lot of money.
I'm fine with you making me money. You already do technically as my boss. So it's very easy to plug in, and it looks like it has the framework available to use. Maybe, I don't know if he plans on ever allowing it, but from the code and how it looked like it would be moderately easy to swap out Stripe with something else, like PayPal or whatever other payment services are out there. I think right now it's just going to launch with Stripe because Stripe is like the easiest. It's very developer friendly. Their tagline is made for developers by developers, or whatever, just marketing BS. But
Has he talked at all about integrating a different?
he hasn't talked about it immediately. I've been kind of tempted to ask him on Laravel Slack, which is where he actually emailed to me. He's like, "Hey, do you have a Skype or a Laravel?" And I'm like, "Both." And then I found out my Slack stuff is still set up on my phone.
When last time I went to the cashier, there was some very specific Stripe.
That's the thing. Spark,
It's a lot.
yeah, Spark uses Cashier
Right.
for a lot of the pieces. So I think it's going to be tied to Stripe until Cashier has the ability to not be tied to Stripe. So I don't know if he plans on changing it at any point in time or if it's just locked into Stripe and that's it.
I've been getting pushed to integrate these with Recurly. You heard of Recurly? It actually allows you to put multiple different payment providers into that API.
Oh,
So you can switch whenever you want. And that's the whole idea. It's like, well, what if Stripe jacks their percentage?
Yeah.
Or you want to switch, like, you know, really.
We were talking
Code
about,
is there.
there's a PHP package from Omni called OmniPay that handles a ton of payment gateways through like a single interface. So I would personally suggest if you had to go implement some new provider, seeing if this provides it, and if it doesn't, you can probably build a composer package that implements that interface, and you can just toggle between whichever one you want.
That's good info.
yeah. OmniPay is definitely good. I don't know if he'll ever move to something like that or open it up to where you can tie in. Obviously, his main purpose with this is making it as easy as possible to get up and rolling with your own like software as a service project idea you have to make a quick buck. So the easiest and quickest way to do that is go use Stripe. Done. And then you can still customize it to do whatever the heck you want to. So you can Cashier provides a lot of the interfaces, like this billable contract is from Cashier, and it has all these methods, and their implementation is within the billable trait. So you have your Stripe key and all that here. You could use the same API from Cashier and just make a new billable trait, like PayPal billable trait or Recurl billable trait, and build your own functionality into the trait. Use it on your Eloquent user model, and those pieces are swapped out right then and there.
So actually, that reminds me of a question. You may not know. I know Cashier is pretty oriented around subscriptions. It doesn't really support too much in the way of like non-subscription.
Like single charges?
Yeah. Do you know if Spark, if it has the ability to do like, you know, you pay $20 once and now you're on a team, or have a team and you're not recurringly charged for that? I imagine it would be that difficult to implement, but I don't know if it was hidden by layers of Cashier and Spark.
You might. I'm assuming you'll be able to do it. Like right here in this billable trait from Cashier is a charge method where you can do a one-off charge on the customer for the given amount you pass in, and it just proxies the Stripe Gateways charge method that takes in amount and options. I don't know what options that Stripe's SDK allows you to pass in. So looks like there's a source you pass in. I don't know the Stripe API off the top of my head, but
Is it possible?
yeah, so it looks like you're probably have to do a little bit more like manual custom logic than the like built out of the box. But there's a team eloquent model and there's team methods, and you can add yourself to teams through the user object. So you theoretically could just use the charge method on the user to charge them for $15 one-time payment, and then it succeeds, and then you just manually go grab the team from Eloquent, add it to the user, and you're good to go. And then your custom application logic does the team checking, whatever you need to do from there. Off the top of my head. But
Has he built in any like I know he has the socialite. Is he pulling that in? Composer?
well, it's a base Laravel like application, so you should have access to Socialite and all those options. So
I didn't know if it was like some automatic thing that he already built out.
not with Spark, but I think it should just be as simple as Composer require Laravel Socialite. I can't remember if it comes pre-installed with Laravel or not. 511. I mean, I could find out pretty quickly. Nope. But
What about in the Spark?
namespace? In Spark's namespace, besides the resources, all it has is the extra authentication logic for two-factor, billing like the email invoice, the install command, contracts, events that get fired off. So with Spark, you get the subscribed event. I'm assuming that gets fired off when the subscription happens to Stripe. I don't know how I forgot that. When they register, when they've canceled the subscription, when they've changed their plan, when they've resumed their subscription that they canceled before, updated the profile. I'm assuming all these events are just used to encapsulate and fire off the logic for like updating the profile or updating different fields within the user table. I don't know all the details. Like I said, I just got this morning and actually just got the chance to throw this together like an hour or two before the meetup because I had to do that whole job work thing first. But Spark mainly provides all the routes. So your terms, your settings user. Here's where you get all the Teams routes enabled based on whatever Spark using Teams returns. Your security routes for password and two-factor authentication. And then the subscription routes, and those are only enabled if you actually have plans configured. So all these subscription routes here, if you just have no plans configured and you're going to just do one-off payments, those routes you don't have to worry about. They're just disabled completely. Your login, your log out, your two-factor authentication routes to validate the token, passwords, registration, user API routes. So I guess that's get current users. So it looks like he just has like a little API route to hit to get updated information and Ajax queries. And that's just getting the current user from Spark, and then getting the team for the user if we're using teams for Spark, and then just returning the user with hidden properties being the last four of the social security and the extra billing info, because you probably don't want to reveal that information in a JSON API. Maybe you do. Won't be a smart idea, but maybe you do. And the Spark user is just using Laravel's built-in auth function. So either grabs the authenticated user, or you can specify your own callable that Spark will use. So I feel like once there's documentation, a lot of the customizability is going to be more apparent. I wish I knew everything about Spark already, but I just am now getting a chance to dig through it as we're talking here. So I think you'll have the ability to customize a bit more than what I've shown tonight, but he's not even fully done with it. Just this month is going to be a beta launch, so I'm not even sure when he's going to launch version 1.0.0. Could be this month out of the beta, could be end of year, beginning of next year. No idea.
Is this something that only Taylor had his hands in, or were there other people involved? You know?
For Spark, code-wise, I think it's just been him. Okay, so it's been him and Matt Stauffer, and Matt's only done a single commit, so so mainly he's had his hand in it, yes. I'm assuming once it goes from private to public, that'll probably change as Graham, Campbell, and all the usual suspects start PRing it to add functionality. But for right now, I think it's just been him writing the code, and then he's probably been talking with Matt Stauffer and people offline or in Lara chat.
What other projects he's incubating?
I don't know. And unfortunately, if he has them incubating, they're not on this repository list I have the ability to look at now. So I can't get any insights of what he's thinking of doing now.
Yeah.
So close. But yeah. Any more questions? Thoughts?
Thanks, Hunter.
Woo!